Okay, hello everyone. Thank you guys for joining us today. I have the beautiful Sidu Arroyo from Conscious Parents here. We're going to talk about all things self-esteem for our kids and well-being and things like that. I am so excited to have you on because particularly your Instagram, I know you've got different platforms, but oh my goodness, the short little like snaps and stuff that you share around parenting and our kids and you know, all of the things that I think your wisdom and your knowledge that you just put in these little bites for us. Like I don't know how many I've like saved and then shared and sent to my friends. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Very nice. To be here with you, Stephanie.
Yeah. So we are talking about building our child's self-worth and self-esteem. I think, like, personally, this is something that I see even just so many parent friends of mine are conscious of. Like, it's really, I don't know if it has been heightened because of COVID in the last few years and the pandemic, but like, even for me, I've got 2 kids and my younger one can tend to be a little bit more sensitive and anxious and not that confident and things like that. And it's like, that was a bit of my story as a kid. So I'm sitting here going, I want, you know, we all want our kids to be happy and resilient and have self-esteem, that kind of, I'm okay and I can do this and I got this and I like myself and who I am. And I would love to see that in my kids. I'm trying to do the best I can. So I'm really excited that I can pick your brain today. So for people who, guys, if you are watching along, please, like, I'm looking here because I like to see the live. I know you guys are jumping on and I want you guys to say hello to me and Sidu, ask questions. Like, maybe I can just fire some of them as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you think of someone who would love to, or who would benefit from watching this, and you are now watching on the Facebook Live, please comment their name or tag them. And if you're watching later on YouTube, all good, like, hello and welcome. And I'm glad you're here as well. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Sidu and her work, because if you don't know, and if you don't already follow her on Instagram, she's at conscious.parents. And her, like, go on after, watch this video with her, but then go on after and follow her work. Just, you know, these are the little, like I said, the bites and the bits of information coming from a psychotherapist. So stuff we know that works, that is based on research, that is not something that we just feel is helpful and feels good. But particularly today, obviously, we're talking about building self-esteem and self-worth. So let me tell you guys a little bit about this beautiful lady. So as I said before, she's a licensed family psychotherapist working in private practice and supporting families worldwide through her online community, Conscious Parents. And her mission is to help parents to deepen their connection with themselves and with their kids through emotional understanding and conscious discipline. So that just, to me, like, I just magnetized to people like you, your work, because I love it so much. So tell us a bit about, like, to start with, why you sort of feel so pulled to, you know, being a psychotherapist and helping kids and families, and especially in parenting.
Yeah. You know, I've been doing this type of work for a while. I was drawn to psychotherapy just from my own experiences, like in college and working with, I had volunteered at a juvenile justice center, just kind of out of the blue. And there, so being a college student, I wasn't necessarily there to do much, but I would sit with these teens, particularly teens who are there, and I would listen to their stories. And a lot of stories about pain, a lot of really vulnerable emotions, a lot of anger, a lot of self-hatred. And something inside of me said, like, how, you know, really wondered, how did this child get here? You know, I didn't want to blame like, oh, this is all the parents' fault, you know, or anything like that. But I was very curious about where they were, what caused them to get stuck in wherever they were in their life. And then from that, it sort of kind of sparked this interest to learn more about the human relationships, about understanding our psychology better, the patterns that we each have, the patterns that we as parents show up with, that then sometimes unintentionally, right, unconsciously, we sort of pass off to our children, or we project different things, and how then, and particularly then from the parent side, how we can help support ourselves, like better understand my patterns, you know, the things, my emotions, what's happening for me, so that I can support myself and then be able to show up authentically for my child, or for, you know, our children. So that's sort of what has driven then conscious parents, like showing up as here in social media, the content that I share on social media, and, you know, through other mediums, to really try to support parents, particularly parents. And that was one of the big things, is supporting parents so that we felt confident in ourselves and how we can support our families, and not be so inclined to like, what is somebody else telling me? Like, what is so-and-so telling me to do? Like, I need to follow this, and instead go more into like, okay, I know my intuition, I know what I feel I need to do here, and go from there.
Wow. So do you see a shift in like the family and the kids when the parent moves from that space of that lack of confidence, and I don't know, you know, I don't have that conviction in my parenting decisions, and they move into this, like you said, that trusting, that intuition and that knowing, and they feel more confident? Do you sort of notice then, oh, there's ripple effects that change, go out into the kids?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Quite often, because then we understand, oh, like, you know, you said you experienced something, you know, when you were younger, about in relations to self-esteem. Well, that's very insightful for you to be aware of that, because that can drive how you respond to your child. Where for some parents, let's say if they were bullied as a child, then if they see their child experiencing rejection, or somebody's mean to them, they may be responding from their own pain, from their own hurt, what they experienced, or not only among their peers, but also the way in which maybe adults showed up in their life. And so from that, you know, if the awareness that we have on, okay, this is what's coming up for me as a parent now, when I'm seeing this in my child, we can address our own pains or hurts or whatever we have there, so then we can show up for our child and what problems or issues they are having.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds to me like, guys, please, if you're watching the live and this is making sense and this is resonating with you, please put like an emoji in the chat, in the comments, because this hits home with me and a lot of the families I work with. And I hopefully you're still there, Sidu, because I think your video has frozen a bit, but I think the audio. Oh yeah. So we'll keep going. So how we're sort of talking a little bit about how a child feels about themselves is the basis of which how they move through relationships and challenges and goals and things like that. And so something that sort of I see some emojis coming in. Thank you. Some of the things that we're going to talk about, contrary to popular belief, a child's self-worth and self-esteem actually does not develop from passive praise or positive mantras. In this kind of conversation that we're having, we want to talk about how we can guide you as parents to build your child's self-worth and self-esteem. So maybe we can talk a little bit about what's the difference between self-worth and self-esteem, so we have a bit of that understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's typically where I like to start off, like, let's, so that we're clear on what we're talking about, and so we have a better understanding. So when we're talking about self-worth, it's this inherent goodness, worthiness that all humans possess, and that goes beyond any type of achievement. So when we're thinking about our children or about ourselves, right, it's not contingent on, was I a good mom today? Right? Was I, did I not yell at my children today? So that's not what we're talking about. Did my child, behave themselves? Were they a good kid today or something like that? That's merit-based, and self-worth is way beyond all of those things. It's this, inherent goodness that we each have. And that comes from a sense of like simply being who we are. So you have your own unique traits and characteristics and personality, and so does everybody else. And our children have those, and that makes them worthy of simply being, who they are. And along with that also goes their imperfections, right? Because we're not perfect, and even despite our imperfections, we still have worthiness. And so that's kind of the idea of self-worth. And we can go a little bit later into like how that's cultivated and whatnot, where self-esteem is more of that subjective, emotional evaluation of ourselves. So here I'm taking, so it can go on a spectrum between, I did something and now I feel good about what it is that I did, and I feel capable, or I feel I feel reliable within myself, to be able to accomplish challenges or things of that sort, to be able to meet my goals. And then sometimes, sometimes we do have times when maybe we don't feel as good about ourselves. And that's when it can be challenging for us as parents, but it's important for us to remember that it will fluctuate from time to time for all of us. I mean, we have these moments as parents as well, where we think, oh, like I messed up, goodness. And we're going to have those, so will our children. And so it's going to bounce back the self-esteem, but it is that subjective emotional evaluation about who we are, versus the self-worth is this inherent goodness and worthiness that's like, regardless of what your child does or doesn't do, like they have that, they possess that.
So do we want to almost like focus or cultivate one more than the other, or are they both as valuable as each other for our kids?
Yeah, I would say both are certainly valuable. The self-worth is going to help drive that self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So I like that distinction. And what are some ways, how can we as parents cultivate or support maybe our child's sense of self-worth and that inherent goodness, and also then the self-esteem? What are some things we can do or not do?
Yeah. So when we're talking about self-worth is cultivated through attuned relationships. And that's a key word, attuned, which can be very challenging. What does that mean? This sort of reciprocal, like my child has a need and I can pay attention, I can try to meet that need. Not perfectly. I always I'm very conscious to make sure that parents know, like, no, of course you will not attune to your child 100% of the time. That's unrealistic. That actually doesn't help your child in the long run. And it's very hard for you as a parent to expect yourself to like be meeting the needs every single time, but you do good enough in meeting those needs. And so through those attuned relationships, through the attunement of, your child has an emotional need. Most of us understand basic needs, right? We feed our children, we provide them home, we give them clothes, all of these things. But those emotional needs, sometimes we forget about those. And so as we're meeting those emotional needs for our children, their sense of self-worth is being cultivated. It's being, fostered, grown. And so when we provide that sense of safety, that sense of security, that sense of like soothing a child when they are having big emotions, which can be very hard for us as parents. Sometimes we may think like, oh, but like, why are you making this into such a big deal? Or this is too much, stop it, or things of that sort. But when we can provide that soothing to them and seeing them for who they are, versus like who we think that they need to be. And I can give you a very quick example here from my own personal life. Like today, we're at home and we're getting ready to go out, and I am seeing that my daughter has her hair, and her hair is just like it's here. It's just like right here. And it doesn't bother her at all. She's fine with her hair. She has no interest in doing anything to her hair. But I feel like she needs to pull it back, because this is
me. This is so simple.
Really, yeah. But I feel like she needs to pull it back. And so I ask her if she wants to, and she says no. And then I feel like, oh, but this needs to get done, because we're going to go out and we're going to be in public. And, here comes my projections, thinking about like, what type of girl is she going to be, and this and this and this. And so that's the part that I'm not seeing my child for who she is. I'm not talking, there's times like if your child says, I'm going to go run across the street. No, sorry, baby, you're not. Like, I'm going to stop you, or I'm not going to let you hit somebody. But who they are in their own individual selves, that's the part that we're seeing. So for me, it was at that time, it's like, okay, recognizing this is who my daughter is. She doesn't mind. Like, she doesn't want her bangs pulled back, or she doesn't want a fancy braid or anything. She's content with who she is, which can be hard for us. But that's kind of an example of like seeing them versus seeing what we want for them.
Oh my God, I know this sounds really, doesn't this sound really sort of basic and foundational, but like I'm having memories drop in. For me and my daughter, she also has long hair, and the amount of times I've said, do you want it? Can I just pull it back? And she goes, no. I'm like, okay. And she'll also just have her hair like, ugh. And it, if she doesn't brush it, it gets knotty. And most of the time I like do the main bits and I leave it, because she likes having it out. And sometimes like she'll buy some clips, and then she'll put them once or twice, and they look so pretty, and then she doesn't want to wear them again. And I just have to let that go. And it's hard, because I'm like, they're so cute. Like, I have a memory as well of, I must have been about 10 or 12 or something, and I went through this phase where I liked back in like was it the 90s or the 2000s, and I had like corduroy, like beige corduroy jean pants, and this like jumpery loose khaki green, it was like boy clothes. I know that's so gender, but anyway. And my mum would have loved me to be in dresses and things, and she let me buy that outfit. And I remember saying, can I wear it today? It's brand new. And I was just going up the street to play, and she was like, yes, you can wear your new clothes. And they were like green and beige. And I felt on top of the world, because I got to wear what I wanted. I was comfortable. I felt cool. And like, I still now, we forget experiences as a child, but coming back now to be a parent, I'm still reminding myself to, when my child is experiencing something some way, or having this emotion about something, even if I don't agree with it, I do my best to validate that that's how they're seeing it, or that's how they're feeling, or that's how they're really unhappy or upset. and not get in the way with what I think or what I would wish them to. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what is our role as a parent? We've kind of touched on bits of this, but for the parents who are watching along, what are some sort of not suggestions, but advice, or about how we can build our child's, or sometimes get out of our own way, get out of their way? What would you kind of say to that before we finish up?
Yeah, so I think we've talked some about the self-worth component. And then so when we're talking about like self-esteem, it is allowed, kind of what we discussed, maybe stepping out of the way, right? Being able to allow our children to take some of those risks so that they can explore, like, where are my strengths? Where may I be imperfect? And that's okay, where are these challenges for me? And oftentimes with when we get into this conversation, I've kind of seen a shift in the parenting community where there's before there was like, praise your child all the time, praise, right? Tell them how beautiful they are, good job. And so we kind of went through a phase, maybe in the like 90s and early 2000s, like praise. And now we've kind of seen a shift, like, don't praise your child, don't praise them.
Yeah.
Where like, if your child shows you a picture, it's like, look, mommy, look at my beautiful drawing, or look at my drawing, what do you think? And you're supposed to say something like, I see you colored it blue, or something like that. And that to me feels incongruent oftentimes. It might, because that's where the attunement is so important. And I know as parents today in this modern world, we're looking for, like, what do I say? But that's going to be dependent on where your child is at that moment and where you are. So maybe if you have some experiences there, or you may say, wow, like, what a beautiful drawing. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, because you genuinely think it's like beautiful. And it's okay for you to say that. It's okay for you to tell your child, like, you're beautiful, I love you, all of these things. But sometimes we may lean very heavy in that direction because we're trying to, like, sort of inflate our child so that they don't ever have these low moments. But those low moments are very important as well. But I'd say with that, like, it just kind of, it depends. And that's where you kind of want to see where your child is. Are they looking for you to, like, give them that praise every single time? And if so, maybe that's when you do kind of have to step back a little bit and have them reflect on, like, well, what do you think about your drawing, or something along those lines. And other times you may say, like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So it's kind of depends, but the challenges then, and the way in which your child kind of moves through their ups and downs, a lot of it is allowing them to have those both highs and lows, even if it may be like, man, I didn't get invited to the birthday party, my friend's birthday party, and I saw that everybody else got invited. That can be really hard for us as parents, because we feel that rejection, maybe again from our own past, but also for them. And it can be very quick to jump in and, like, to try to, like, cover up those uncomfortable emotions by, okay, let me take you somewhere so that you don't have to feel this. But us sitting with them there and then reflecting on, hey, what does this feel like for you? And then helping them move through that afterwards by different ways of coping. Maybe you guys sit together, maybe they ask for a hug, maybe they just want to talk about it, how hard it is. All of those things are very important in being able to then, like, build that self-esteem.
Oh, such a good point. Like, just because I was going to ask, when our kids are disappointed or they feel let down or upset, what can we do? And you nailed it. Like, sometimes it is just allowing those feelings to come out without trying to fix them or distract them. And sometimes just sitting and just, do they want to talk about it, or do they want to be unhappy for a while? And then what else can they do? So I love that, because I was going to ask that question. And I agree. I think it's a balance of what feels right authentically with praising. Like if you love it, you're allowed to say you love it, or it's beautiful, or whatever they're doing, or you know. And I think balancing that with putting the onus back on them to think, what did they like about it, or what brought them joy with whatever they created, or whatever, however, and stuff like that. I did a short interview with Alfie Cohn last year, and it's somewhere on the YouTube channel. And obviously he has some very opinions about praise, and it essentially being akin to, you know, sort of punishing and things like that. And that flip side of really conditional, which is not what we're talking about, but we do want to stay away from, I love you when you do this, and I'm so pleased with that. And when you don't do well, or when you don't meet my expectations, or you don't do the thing, you're not obedient, then, you know, I'm not going to give you my time and love. So I think, you know, a balance in so many areas of parenting and life is really beneficial. So
so yes, Alfie's like work is very important. I appreciate his work very much, and that part is that for us as parents to be like, why am I praising my child right now? Is it to get them to comply with what I want? Am I using, I'm not a fan of rewards or charts or sticker things like that, but like those can often be very manipulative in many ways, and so can our praise as well. Or sometimes we may praise simply to like get our children to leave us. And that's also kind of right, the part that, okay, am I actually attuning, or am I just like simply trying to brush them off? Because the thing is, our children will feel that. And so even if you don't have all of your time, maybe saying something like, I want to hear what it is that you have to say, or what you want to share right now. I'm washing the dishes. Can we come back to this in a couple of minutes, in 5 minutes? And then you can give them your time and attention.
I love that. So maybe we can finish up with a quick question from Katie. I love that I can see people's comments, guys. Please keep putting them in. She's just asked, after you have listened to their feelings about being sad about the invite or lack of, what then? I struggle getting them past something in a helpful or confident way. So when we've listened to those feelings about being sad, then what can we do? What are some tips or suggestions?
Yeah, I guess again, it may depend. So for a young child who maybe is upset because of, I can't exactly think of an example here. It may just be simply transitioning to something else. Oh, so now we go, you know, outside, or now we go color. Now we go do something else. For another child, like if there was a problem there, it may be coming up with ideas together on how they can communicate something, let's say with a best friend who, you know, was unkind to them or something. Well, you know, after we've sat with those sad feelings and we've processed, it could even be a day after. Sometimes as parents, we're so inclined to like, we got to take care of this now. But sometimes we need to wait, because maybe we're still not ready because of what's showing up for me and my experience of rejection or these different things. So you may wait a whole day or some other time, and then come back to, okay, you know, how do you want to, like, what type of, now that you know as my child how you feel, that you felt sad that your friend said at whatever it is that they said, or that they didn't invite you or something, how do you want to move forward? Maybe we talk to the friend, maybe we talk, and you can kind of coach them through these scenarios, and then be able to move to that. But so you have those sad feelings. For some kids, it's like, okay, now we just transition to something else. For other kids, it may be like, let's come together and now let's try to figure out how we can solve this problem.
I love that. I think it's really important to honor and accept and normalize those uncomfortable feelings. We don't like it. Our child doesn't like it. It pulls on our heartstrings. But to allow those, like I say, emotions are energy in motion. They've got to move through our bodies and ours. And sometimes holding space for those to come out, and just sitting in it, it feels yucky, but that's normalizing. Yeah, we feel like this and it sucks. Or I would be upset too. And then, as you said, I can't remember the word that you said, sort of then coaching them through, what can we do about it? What would you like to text that friend if they're an older child? Would you like to say to your brother, don't take my things? Like, would you like to, you know what I mean? Some of those, helping them to problem solve. So
yes.
I love that. I'm so grateful for you. Like I fired some questions at you, and we went around, and like we applied stuff that we wanted to about self-worth and self-esteem, but you shared so much wisdom, and I'm really, really appreciative of you coming on and giving us your time. I know you're a busy mum of 3 and you have a busy practice, and so I just want to show my gratitude and say thank you.
Yes, it was very nice to be here with you.
Yeah, so if people want to follow you or get in touch or read more, I know you have a newsletter, and obviously you have your different platforms. Where would you like people to learn more from you and about your work and things like that?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. There's a Facebook page. There's also I'm also on TikTok. I tend to be primarily on Instagram, but probably the best place to be able to keep up with the things that I share and the work that I share is through the newsletter, which you can find through any of those platforms, and the links that are there, it'll send you right over. And then I try to send out a newsletter bi-weekly if I can. But that's honestly the best place to be able to keep up to date, since there's no algorithms there. And so you can keep up with the different offerings that I'll have. From time to time, I offer different workshops. And so that would be a great place to connect.
And you have a new course coming out in the near future, right?
Yes, that's in the works. And so I'll have a conscious parent, like 101, but very much in depth, hopefully, to be able to focus a lot on understanding ourselves and sort of this reparenting. And then from that, helping to understand, like, how do I parent now in my child in a conscious way? Sort of the ins and outs of all of that, and it's in the works. I don't have an exact timeline as to when it's going to come out, but it's a process. We're getting there.
Cannot wait. So I've seen some comments of, can we have the link? And yes, I think I can see my team has actually put in your website, TikTok, Instagram. The links are in the Facebook Live in the description sort of thing. So you guys will be able to click on those and jump to Sidu's, one of her platforms. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, then down below will be all of her links, where to find her, where to sign up for the newsletter, and all the good stuff like that. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you found as many gold nuggets as I did. I was trying to secretly type little bits and pieces because it was just so valuable. So thank you again, Sidu.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you very soon for I'm sure another interview in our Facebook community and online. So have a great rest of your day, guys. See ya.
Bye, everybody.